pillar to post from coast to coast. Confusion all across the land. A hidden word is what I'd like to say. But tell me, would you listen, my friend? And I'm so glad I know about the best beauty. So glad I know about the best beauty. I just want, I want to praise His name. Oh, Baha'u'llah, 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 oh, oh, Baha'u'llah, Baha'u'llah. Well, again, good morning, everyone.
Much better.
Well, thank you, Yuta.
Okay.
Again, you're our new sound person. You're our Zoom sound person now. So thanks again. But hey, Yuta, and hey, Pam. And as you can see, we have the lovely, amazing Suzanne Gerstner with us again today. How you doing today, Suzanne?
I'm doing well.
You're doing well?
How are
Good,
you
good.
doing?
I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay. And Jeremiah is out there somewhere in the cosmos. He's handling things as usual off screen. So let's go ahead and get started. And so, Sue, would you open us up with a prayer, please?
Yes. O thou provider, thou hast breathed over the friends in the West the sweet fragrance of the Holy Spirit, and with the light of divine guidance, thou hast lit up the western sky. Thou hast made those who were once remote to draw near unto thyself. Thou hast turned strangers into loving friends. Thou hast awakened those who slept. Thou hast made the heedless mindful. O thou provider, assist thou these noble friends to win thy good pleasure, and make them well wishers of stranger and friend alike. Bring them into the world that abideth forever. Grant them a portion of heavenly grace. Cause them to be true Baha'is, sincerely of God. Save them from outward semblances, and establish them firmly in the truth. Make them signs and tokens of the kingdom, luminous stars above the horizons of this nether life. Make them to be a comfort and a solace to humankind, and servants to the peace of the world. Exhilarate them with the wine of thy counsel, and grant that all of them may tread the path of thy commandments. O thou provider, the dearest wish of the servant of thy household threshold is to behold the friends of East and West in close embrace, to see all the members of human society gathered with love in a single great assemblage, even as graciously, even as, oh, sorry, I got 2 pages. Even as individual drops of water collected in one mighty sea, to behold them as birds in one garden of roses, as pearls of one ocean, as leaves of one tree, as rays of one sun. Thou art the mighty, the powerful, and thou art the God of strength, the omnipotent, the all seeing.
Thank you, Sue. Now, as you know, folks, if you were with us last week, you know that we're still in chapter 13, prophecies fulfilled by the Baha'i movement. And in this particular edition, which both Sue and I both have, we finished up, and help me out with this, Sue. I believe we got midway of that section called the branch.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
finished the quote of Isaiah.
exactly. And rather than go forward, I mean, we are going to go forward, but rather than start in the next section, I think it might be a good idea if we started from the beginning again, because I don't know about you. I'll put it this way. As I was reading this section in preparation, and the next few following sections. There is so much that, once again, growing up in the Christian tradition, uh, there is so much that there's this sense of clarity
Yeah.
that this brings to prophecy. Uh, Whereas I really feel that without this clarity, I think, and I can only speak personally, I know that in hindsight, I was given to kind of mythologizing a lot of the stuff that's in there, like this is either a myth or in the way that it's going to happen in fantastical ways. You know, there's going to be the Son of Man coming down from clouds and so forth, so in ways that are quite literal. And then you read this, and somehow it refutes our assumptions, and on a metaphysical or spiritual level makes it all make sense. I mean, I'm just speaking my own views there. I always like to remind people I'm no authority, but it just makes so much sense. And to say that it doesn't make sense for me would mean, frankly, I would have to dismiss it all. And I don't just mean this, I mean all, all the spiritual teachings. I would have to do as some people do.
Yeah. And it also makes sense in terms of how Christ and his disciples explained phenomena
Yes,
that
yes,
people
yes,
said wasn't happening.
yes.
But if you have eyes to see, those who have eyes to see and ears to hear, let them see, let
Yes.
them hear.
So, with that being said, hey there, how you doing, Terry? And Renee is with us. Good morning, Renee. Um, we're going to go ahead and get started with our reading. So, Sue, would you like to
Good
begin?
morning.
Good to see you, Renee.
Yeah, good to see you too.
Okay.
Hello,
Would you,
hello.
Where do you want to begin?
I want to start with the branch again.
The branch.
Yes,
Okay. Okay.
and just continue from there.
Okay. The branch. Do you want me to read?
I, would you like to read?
I'll read the branch.
Okay, read
Okay.
the branch.
The branch. In the prophecies of Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, and Zechariah are several references to a man called the branch. These have often been taken by Christians as applying to Christ, but are regarded by Baha'is as referring especially to Baha'u'llah. The longest Bible prophecy about the branch is in the 11th chapter of Isaiah. And there shall come forth a rod out of the stem of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of his roots, and the Spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the spirit of knowledge and of the fear of the Lord. Righteous shall be the girdle of his loins, and faithfulness the girdle of his reins. The wolf shall dwell with the lamb, and the leopard with the kid, and the calf, and the young lion, and the fatling together, and a little child shall lead them. They shall not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain, for the earth shall be full of the knowledge of the Lord, as the waters cover the sea. And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set at his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria and from Egypt and from Pathros and from Cush and from Elam and from Shinar and from Hamath and from the islands of the sea. And he shall set up an ensign for the nations, and shall assemble the outcasts of Israel, and gather together the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth. Do you want me to continue reading?
Yes, because I'm down here doing some technical
Okay.
stuff, please.
Abdul Baha remarks about this and other prophecies of the branch. One of the great events which is to occur in the day of the manifestation of that incomparable branch is the hoisting of the standard of God among all nations, meaning that all the nations and tribes will come together under the shadow of this divine banner, which is no other than the lordly branch itself, and will become a single nation. The antagonism of faiths and religions, the hostility of races and peoples, and the national differences will be eradicated from amongst them. All will become one religion, one faith, one race, and one single people, and will dwell in one native land, which is the terrestrial globe. Universal peace and concord will be realized between all the nations, and the incomparable branch will gather together all Israel, signifying that in this cycle Israel will be gathered in the Holy Land, and that the Jewish people who are scattered to the east and west, south and north, will be assembled together. Now, see, these events did not take place in the Christian cycle, for the nations did not come together under the one standard, which is the divine branch. But in this cycle of the Lord of hosts, all the nations and people will enter under the shadow of this flag. In the same way, Israel, scattered all over the world, was not reassembled in the Holy Land in the Christian cycle. But in the beginning of the cycle of Baha'u'llah, this divine promise, as is clearly stated in all the books of the prophets, has begun to be manifest. You can see that from all the parts of the world, tribes of Jews are coming to the Holy Land. They live in villages and lands which they make their own, and day by day they are increasing to such an extent that all Palestine will become their home. And this is from Some Answered Questions.
Okay, Sue, I'm going to stop you there.
Yeah.
This is not a test. It may feel like one. How do you feel reading this, considering what is going on right now in the world, in the Holy Land? I don't know. Does it give you any questions? Does it make you have any questions? Or do you see what's going on in the Holy Land now, which of course is war, as simply part of this cycle that we're being told we are in?
So I don't see that we're climbing a ladder and it's step by step exactly,
Hmm.
but it's more like a few steps forward and some back, but more forward than back. If you look over the years, certainly the Jews are gathered in the Holy Land, and there was peace there, but around the Holy Land were people who were very happy to bring war there,
Hmm.
but they were outgunned, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't know that what is happening now with Netanyahu is part of a plan, but I do know that everything that happens in the world, the good and the bad, God uses to further his plan. And his plan is for the oneness of mankind. And his plan is
Ooh.
the greater plan of God is for us to be just what they said here, the whole world to come together under one banner, one religion. And that isn't to say that all the religions, should but we are one religion,
Yeah.
that the realization that we are one, that we are one people,
Hmm.
we're all the children of God.
I'm so happy you said that because, we get so caught up in labels, which I'm just as guilty of as anyone else. And so I will admit that there have been times I've moved beyond this, but there have been times when I would read, the world will be of one faith and so forth and so on. I'll admit, in my mind, it's the Baha'i faith. But if we take away the labels, it is, at least for me, and again, I'm simply speaking on a personal level, it's a lot easier for me to see the world becoming people of one faith, not necessarily bearing that label, and I'm not saying it will or it will not, but at least people accepting the fact that God is in charge, that we need to respect our fellow human beings, and that we do need to be striving towards unity. And right now, um, or at least in my short lifespan, in the big picture anyway, that's a lot easier to wrap, at least for me. A lot easier for me to wrap my brain around when I start removing the labels.
Yeah,
That's just for me.
that's right.
But I also want to point out that one of the words that really jumped out at me in this section is that word cycle. But in this cycle of the Lord of hosts, all the nations and people will enter under the
That's
shadow of
right.
this flag, because we look at it in a larger context. well, then this is a cycle that has been preceded by other cycles.
That's right.
And each cycle, moves us further forward. And like you said, it's not one smooth motion. It's kind of in fits and starts and so forth. But still, God's plan is still going to unfold and it will still come to fruition.
His plan unfolds in terms of crisis and victory.
Yes.
If we don't have the crisis, we won't get the victory. So there has to be crises.
That's so hard,
I'm so
Sue.
sorry, but that's the way it
Why
is.
can't we just have the victory without the crises? Why?
I mean,
But
if you look at the 20, I mean, if do you mind if I talk a little bit?
that's why you're here, Sue.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, if you look at the world, in terms of unity,
Hmm.
before the 20th century, there was no unity anywhere.
Right.
You know, people didn't see themselves as a united anything.
Hmm.
But it took World War One and people seeing in the newspaper, reading about all the different places of the world,
Right.
people fighting each other, people becoming refugees and mixing around in ways they hadn't before,
Hmm.
to get the League of Nations, which was the
Right.
first step in unity.
Hmm.
And then after World War II, that was so much bigger. And not only do we get the United Nations, but we got the what's it called? Declaration of Human Rights,
Okay.
and
Okay.
all sorts of NGOs working for one thing or another
Yeah.
to try to make a more peaceful, united world.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead, please.
So it's just crises and then the victories
Yeah,
come.
and I think sometimes on a personal level, we get so caught up in the crises, whether it's vicariously by watching the crises that other people are going through, or our own personal crises. We get so caught up in that it can be a challenge to pull back and look at the big picture. And certainly, it doesn't mean look at the world or humanity through rose-colored glasses, but still just try and see the big picture. And frankly, it's hard, at least for me, to do that without having a spiritual foundation to base all that on. If we just look at it materialistically, I think it's easy to look at, the latest bill that was difficult to pay or the price of eggs, instead of accepting that this is all part of a larger cycle that has a spiritual foundation.
And that everything is leading to our oneness.
Yes.
However bad it looks at the moment, it, it's all leading there.
And that hopefully can give people comfort and strength to, certainly still work to do to bring about good, but accept that, yeah, it's not going to always be easy. It's not going to always be easy. And indeed, in this next section, uh, maybe it might not even be the next section, but somewhere in a section that's not too far off, we might not get to it today. There's a couple of phrases, or maybe just a phrase, that indicates that the culmination of this cycle, if you're living today, you're probably not going to see the culmination of this cycle.
Not in this world.
Yes.
My hope is that in the next world we're seeing everything anyway.
Yes,
So
yes, 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 yes. But in
don't
this
go away.
particular contingent world, no. But it still doesn't mean that it's not valid. It still doesn't mean it's not happening. It still doesn't mean that we should do our best to be a part of the positive side of that
The
process.
building up of the new world order.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Even those words strike fear in some people's
Yeah,
hearts.
because it's been used so wrongly.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's been. Oh yeah.
I mean,
Castigated. Yeah.
but it is what we're told.
Yeah. I cut her off, folks. What she said was New World Order. Okay, let's continue.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's been used to drive fear into people's
Exactly.
hearts.
Oh.
Like it's some kind of hideous,
Mm,
awful thing. But
I will not. I will not. I will not. I will not respond because I 100% agree with you. But if you do this long enough, Sue, you'll get used to me just talking too much. Let's continue.
okay, do you want to read for a while?
I think I will read this next
Okay.
section. It's kind of brief. This next section is called "The Day of God," and it's got some definitions in here, or a couple. The word "day" in such phrases as day of God and last day is interpreted as meaning dispensation. Now, some of you might even wonder what's dispensation. Well, think of dispense, giving out, to dispense. Okay, dispensation. Each of the great religion founders has his day. Each of the great religion founders has his day. Each is like a sun. His teachings have their dawn. Their truth gradually illuminates more and more the minds and hearts of the people until they attain the zenith of their influence. Here's the other side. Then they gradually become obscured, misinterpreted, and corrupted, and darkness overshadows the earth until the sun of a new day arises. I know that's long, but I'm going to read it again. Each of the great religion founders has his day. Each is like a sun. His teachings have their dawn. Their truth gradually illuminates more and more the minds and hearts of the people until they attain the zenith of their influence, until they, the teachings, attain the zenith of their influence. Then they gradually become obscured, misinterpreted, and corrupted, and darkness overshadows the earth until the sun of a new day arises. It's easy to find people who are some of the worst representations of the faith that they profess so deeply. That's not in the book. That's coming from the book of Tony Ballard. The day of the supreme manifestation of God. Say that again. The day of the supreme manifestation of God is the last day because it is a day that shall never end and shall not be overtaken by night. His sun shall never set, but shall illumine the souls of men both in this world and in the world to come. In reality, none of the spiritual suns ever set. The sons of Moses, that's S-U-N-S, S-U-N-S, the sons of Moses, of Christ, of Muhammad, and all the other prophets are still shining in heaven with undiminished luster. But earth-born clouds have concealed their radiance from the people of earth. The supreme sun of Baha'u'llah will finally disperse these dark clouds so that the people of all religions will rejoice in the light of all the prophets and with one accord worship the one God whose light all the prophets have mirrored forth. That's that thing that I was kind of referring to about, that sentence to me makes it all make sense.
Say that one again.
Yes, the supreme son of Baha'u'llah will finally disperse these dark clouds so that the people of all religions will rejoice in the light of all the prophets and with one accord, worship the one God whose light all the prophets have mirrored forth.
So there's our oneness.
There's our
There's
oneness.
the oneness of religions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that big question, as you can see, I'm always writing in my book. I'm always putting marks in here. And that's one of those paragraphs that for me, I need to be able to go back to. Because, I forget stuff. Sometimes I'll have these moments of clarity and sometimes moments of confusion. And I can go back.
We all have that.
Yeah, yeah. And I can go back and read, oh, yeah. Especially those times I was just speaking to Jeremiah earlier today and tell him sometimes I have a crisis of faith. Not necessarily, no, I didn't say, I said not a crisis of faith, but of dedication.
Yeah.
Because when all of this doesn't happen like that
Yeah.
in our lifetime, it's easy to do what some have done, which is kind of shrug your shoulders and say it's just a whole bunch of hogwash. It's not.
No,
It's not.
It makes more sense than you can believe. When I became a Baha'i, I felt like I had the key that unlocked all the doors that were shut, and I
Thank
could
you
not
so
figure them
much.
out. It made no sense.
Thank you
I
so
tried
much.
so hard to understand the Bible without the key, but it doesn't make a lot of sense. Read Revelations without knowing really what it's about.
Yes,
It's
yes,
very confusing.
absolutely, absolutely. I'm sure you're familiar with the Kitabi Igan, the Book of
Yep,
Certitude.
yep,
So many clouds moved away.
yeah.
So many clouds moved away. Okay, okay, let's continue. This next part, again, if you grew up if you grew up in the Christian church, you know what? We are going to continue, but not right now. I think I'll go ahead and do a song. And,
Oh,
and
good
the
idea.
song that I'm going to do is the song that I started with because I always start with that. Well, I don't always start with that song, but usually if Daryl's not with us, um, I start with that song. And it's got a couple of other verses that I never really get around to sing because I have to keep it short. But I'm going to do that whole song right now. Okay. People running around every day, wondering why things are changing so fast. Don't know what to do, don't know what to say. Got so many questions to ask. From pillar to post, from coast to coast, confusion all across the land. A hidden word is what I like to say, but tell me, would you listen, my friend? And I'm so glad I know about the blessed beauty. So glad I know about the blessed beauty. I just want, I want, I want to praise His name. So much depression, so much aggression. What's real and who can you trust? Is the purpose of life all struggle and strife? Does it end in ashes and dust? God really cares, He hears your prayers. If you only take time to pray, if you can't find the words, you can still be heard. He knows what you're trying to say. That's why I'm so glad I know about the blessed beauty. So glad I know about the blessed beauty. I just want, I want, I want to praise His name. Oh, so glad I know about the blessed beauty. I just want, I want, I want to praise His name. People running around every day, wondering why things are changing so fast. Don't know what to do, don't know what to say. Got so many questions to ask. But if they take some time and see the signs, they'd see the sunshine through the rain. 'Cause God sent down His blessed beauty. Baha'u'llah is His name, and that's why I'm so glad, oh, so glad, oh, so glad. I know about the blessed beauty. So glad I know about the blessed beauty. I just want, I want, I want to praise His name. Oh, Baha'u'llah, 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 oh, Baha'u'llah, Baha'u'llah. blessed beauty, which is a term that if for those of you who read the Baha'i writings, you'll see that pop up as a reference to Baha'u'llah, the blessed beauty.
I think it's Jamali Mubarak in Persian.
Okay, Sue, now you're just now you're just making me look dumb. Nobody comes on and makes me look. I did not know that. Say
Yeah.
that again, please, really.
Jamali Mubarak. Maybe there's a Persian out there who can correct me.
Jamali Mubarak.
Mubarak is blessed or beauty. Oh, anyway, I shouldn't have said it.
No, I'm glad you said it because I think that's beautiful.
Is there a
Jamal-
Persian out there who can correct me?
Oh, to me, there's music in that. Jamali Mubarak. I'm hearing music in that title said in those words, Jamali Mubarak. I hope you said it correctly because now that's what's in my head.
I hope I did. I think I might have.
So you want to continue?
Yeah.
Okay.
The day of judgment. Christ spoke much in parables about the great day of judgment, when the Son of Man shall come in the glory of his Father, and shall reward every man according to his works. He compares this day to the time of harvest, when the tares are burned and the wheat gathered into barns. So shall it be in the end of the world, consummation of the age. Is in parentheses, the end of the world, consummation of the age. The Son of Man shall send forth his angels, and they shall gather out of his kingdom all things that offend, and them which do iniquity, and shall cast them into a furnace of fire. There shall be wailing and gnashing of teeth. Then shall the righteous shine forth as the sun in the kingdom of their Father.
Okay, if you don't
Yes,
mind my
Matthew.
stopping you there.
Yeah,
None of that lines up with what.
Well, let's read further and find out how it does. But yes,
Well, no, I just want to say, in my mind, growing up again as a kid, the day of judgment. First of all, it was a day.
the day of
It
judgment.
was a day.
What's a day to God?
Yes. Well, I know it's a day is what a thousand
1,000
years.
years?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. But in my mind, it was a day, and it was a day in which you'd see Jesus coming out of the clouds. Okay. But down here, you'd see the dead rising out of their graves. You got to think about what a literal thinking kid sees
Well, yeah,
when that's, and even as
kids are literal.
as an adult, I mean, it's
Adults can be literal too.
and that very, very true. Yes, but this is not saying that, is it?
No.
It's not saying that at all.
Well, it's kind of scary, would it say,
Exactly.
if you didn't do the right thing.
That's- I honestly, literally had nightmares of
Yeah.
Judgment Day, multiple nightmares of Judgment Day. I won't describe them; it takes too long. But I had nightmares, and yeah. I mean, when those pictures get in your head, so anyway. But I will say before you continue that so shall it be in the end of the world, and you did point out in parentheses consummation of the age. Now remember, we're talking about the day of judgment, but this is saying. And this is a quote from Jesus, right? He compares this day to the time of harvest when the tares are burned and the wheat gathered into barns. So shall it be in the end of the world. And there in parentheses, consummation of the age, which means, again, kind of cycle, not a day.
But consummation of the age is probably somebody explaining it.
Oh yeah, you're right. It's not. It's not
It's not
not
Jesus.
part of the quote. It's just
Yeah.
an explanation.
Yeah.
Add some clarity of it to
Yeah.
it. Yes.
Shall I continue?
Please.
The phrase end of the world used in the authorized version of the Bible in this and similar passages has led many to suppose that when the day of judgment comes, the earth will suddenly be destroyed. But this is evidently a mistake. The true translation of the phrase appears to be the consummation or end of the age,
Mhm.
just like you said.
I guess I should have just shut up and let you keep reading.
Christ teaches that the kingdom of the Father is to be established on earth as well as in heaven. He teaches us to pray, Thy kingdom come, Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. In the parable of the vineyard, when the Father, the Lord of the vineyard, comes to destroy the wicked husbandman, he does not destroy the vineyard, the world, also but lets it out to other
Other
husbandmen
husbandmen.
who will render him the fruits in their season. The earth is not to be destroyed, but to be renewed and regenerated. Christ speaks of the day on another occasion as the regeneration when the Son of Man shall sit in the throne of his glory. St. Peter speaks of it as the times of refreshing, the times of restitution of all things which God hath spoken by mouth of all his holy prophets since the world began. The day of judgment of which Christ speaks is evidently identical with the coming of the Lord of hosts, the Father, which was prophesied by Isaiah and the other Old Testament prophets, a time of terrible punishment for the wicked, but a time in which justice shall be established and righteousness rule on earth as in heaven. In the Baha'i interpretation, the coming of each manifestation of God is a day of judgment, but the coming of the supreme manifestation of Baha'u'llah is the great day of judgment for the world cycle in which we are living. The trumpet blast of which Christ and Muhammad and many other prophets speak is the call of the manifestation, which is sounded for all who are in heaven and on earth, the embodied and the disembodied.
I know you've only got a couple of more sentences to go in this section,
Okay.
but I got to talk about that
Okay,
trumpet
do it.
blast thing. Again, literally speaking, I was expecting real trumpets. I've seen the pictures. I've seen the Renaissance paintings.
That's right.
I was expecting real trumpets. And this is saying, no, folks, ain't going to be no trumpet. Never was going to be a trumpet. It points out the trumpet blast of which Christ and Muhammad and many other prophets speak is the call of the manifestation, which is sounded for all who are in heaven and on earth, the embodied and the disembodied. So even those who have come and gone before us hear the word. Yes. No trumpet.
I'm worried about the people who did iniquity.
Yeah. Well,
but you know, I'm sure that it's not. You know, it depends on how they respond. Anybody can, can beg forgiveness
absolutely.
right to the last moment of death
Yeah, and according to
and after death, I'm sure.
yes, what we're told is that I mean this the death of this earthly body is not the end of
No,
our
it's the beginning
existence.
of the
Yes,
next world.
and that's why we're told we can pray for the souls of our loved ones who have gone on before us. We can pray for their souls. We can pray for them to continue progressing. We can pray for their forgiveness. And so, yeah, even this is not an end. Yeah.
But this is in the Bible, and the things that Baha'u'llah says are so much more nuanced, because they
Yes.
were trying to keep people in the right line.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. I mean, he was speaking to people who, just like people of today, the physical world is. I was saying this to Jeremiah, is so in your face. So the manifestation of God has to deal with that because of these physical contingencies, the contingent world, we are so limited by it that I guess they have to accept, and God forbid that I should think I could think like a manifestation of God, but they have to accept that they're dealing with people who have these limitations, and
That's
yet
right.
they still have to try and convince them of a beautiful time to come, a timeless time to come, of which they can be a part of, if they, simply listen and follow and apply, these teachings. But
Can I say one last thing?
you can say anything you want to, yeah.
Christ said a, a tree without fruit was fit for the fire.
Yes.
And Baha'u'llah said, what is a tree without fruit? Because before the fruit comes, there is no fruit. And you can cut the tree into 1,000 pieces and find no fruit. But in the time of its fruiting, the fruit comes.
Yeah.
And some fruit doesn't become ripe until after it falls from the tree.
So you're
How
getting too
subtle is
deep for
that?
me. I mean, that makes so much sense. Yeah.
So we can't judge. Christ says, don't judge anybody,
Yeah.
and so does Baha'u'llah. They all say, don't judge other people.
Yeah.
We are in no position to judge people.
That's very true.
How do we know what they will be?
I need to remember that.
Yeah.
So go ahead and let's finish these last couple of sentences here.
I think it started with the meeting with God.
Yes.
Yeah. The meeting with God through his manifestation is for those who desire to meet him, the gateway to the paradise of knowing and loving him and living in love with his creatures. Those, on the other hand, who prefer their own way to God's way, as revealed by the manifestation, thereby consign themselves to the hell of selfishness, error, and enmity.
Wow.
So that is hell.
Yes. The hell of
It's not
selfishness,
gnashing of teeth.
error. Yes. Error and enmity. That's a hard lesson to learn, though.
Yeah.
It really is. It's a hard lesson to learn. We're running so short of time.
Oh,
But
dear.
and see, Daryl finally learned how to tell me, okay, it's time to stop talking. Let's keep reading. Sue, you're new at this.
I like talking. To you.
Okay,
That's
okay.
the problem.
But there are so much. I mean, in these sections that we read today, there's.
So
I
much
mean,
in it.
there's always a lot of depth. I could say that about you open up a page and say the same thing, but it adds so much clarity,
Yeah.
to some really deep concepts
That's right.
around which so much disagreement circles among people. Not just people of different faiths, but people of the same faith often.
Yeah.
You know, and some people walk away from it all because they say it doesn't make sense. None of it makes sense. It's all a bunch of, like I said earlier, just a whole bunch of hogwash. It's not. And this adds clarity and this helps us understand it. And at this time, if there is anyone who would like to share a prayer or a song of your choosing or a reading of your choosing, this is that time. And I hate to say it, but I think my Facebook camera is running out of power.
Hi, Tony.
I'm sorry.
Hi, Tony. Can you hear me?
Hi. Oh, yes, we hear you, John. I'm sorry. I'm dealing with a little something here. Please, I'll deal with this. Please, would you like to share a prayer, John?
I'd like to actually share two things. One is the Kitab-i-Iqan, a quote from it, if it's okay, and then a
Okay,
prayer.
please. Please.
So as I'm pulling it up, I want everyone to know that there is a beautiful library called Ocean 2.0 Interfaith Reader. It has the writings from every religion that we can find online to put there. Oceanlibrary.com has books from Baha'u'llah, in addition to other faiths, other religions. Now, one of those books, which Abdul Baha would refer a lot to when you perhaps go through some answer questions of Abdul Baha or the selections, he'll refer to this book called the Kitab-i-Iqan. And this book in English means the Book of Certitude. The reason why certitude is such a big word in the Baha'i faith is that, of course, there's a lot of ways to view this, but where we have faith, we also are to strive for certitude. And what that means to everyone individually, well, that's up to our own personal growth. I'll leave it to that. But there is this quote I'm about to read from the Book of Certitude that talks about the manifestation of God and who they are and how they are. And just reflecting on this, it's paragraph 196 from page 179 of the Kitab-i-Iqan. And please, Tony or Susan, correct me on this. I think Baha'u'llah wrote it in 2 nights.
Yes, it just kept flowing. Yeah.
The Kitab-i-Iqan was written in 2 nights. It is truly, to me, one of the evidences of the divinity of Baha'u'llah. Just
To the uncle of the Bab.
Yes, the uncle of the Bab, yes.
And questions. Yeah.
Answering questions and also I think for most people, like, what is religion? So when I read this paragraph, it's something that talks about the nature of the manifestation of God. And I want everyone to key in on this idea of them calling themselves servants of God. And I'm going to read the first part first to give it context so that no one takes it out of context. But the part I want us to focus on is, and were they to say, we are the servants of God, and what that means. Because I think if we look at what the manifestations of God are, and this level of servitude that they have that we can really, truly never reach. It gives us a sense of understanding of the humility we have towards other people and how we treat them. If these beings can come and do that, and they're telling us to do that, we don't really have an excuse not to do that. So here we go. Were any of the all-embracing manifestations of God to declare, I am God, he verily speaketh the truth, and no doubt attacheth thereto. For it hath been repeatedly demonstrated that through the revelation, their attributes and names, the revelation of God, his name, and his attributes are made manifest in the world. Thus he hath revealed, those shafts were God's, not thine. And also he saith, in truth, they who plighted fealty unto thee really plighted that fealty unto God. And were any of them to voice the utterance, I am the messenger of God, he also speaketh the truth, the indubitable truth. Even as he saith, Muhammad is not the father of any man among you, but he is the messenger of God. Viewed in this light, they are all but messengers of that ideal king, that unchangeable essence. And were they all to proclaim, I am the seal of the prophets, they verily utter but the truth, beyond the faintest shadow of doubt. For they are all but one person, one soul, one spirit, one being, one revelation. They are all the manifestation of the beginning and the end, the first and the last, the seen and the hidden, all of which pertain to him who is the innermost spirit of spirits and the eternal essence of essences. And were they to say, we are the servants of God, this also is a manifest and indisputable fact. For they have been made manifest in the uttermost state of servitude, a servitude the like of which no man can possibly attain. Thus, in moments in which these essences of being were deeply immersed beneath the oceans of ancient and everlasting holiness, or when they soared to the loftiest summits of divine mysteries, they claimed their utterance to be the voice of divinity, the call of God himself. Were the eye of discernment to be opened, it would recognize that in this very state, they have considered themselves utterly effaced and non-existent in the face of him who is the all-pervading, the incorruptible. Methinks they have regarded themselves as utter nothingness and deemed their mention in that court an act of blasphemy. The slightest whispering of self within such a court is an evidence of self-assertion and independent existence in the eyes of them that have attained unto that court. Such a suggestion itself is a grievous transgression. How much more grievous would it be were aught else to be mentioned in that presence, were man's heart, his tongue, his mind, or his soul to be busied with anyone but the well-beloved? Were his eyes to behold any countenance other than his beauty? Were his ear to be inclined to any melody but his voice? And were his feet to tread any way but his way?
Thank
In
you,
this
John.
day, the breeze of God is wafted, and his spirit hath pervaded all things. Such is the outpouring of his grace, that the pen is stilled, and the tongue is speechless.
Thank you, John. Thank you for sharing that.
That's one of the keys I was talking about.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
the key that unlocks so many contradictory things, but they're
Yes.
not.
And that's from the Kitabi Yagan, correct?
Yeah.
A book of certitude. Yes, 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 yes. We've only got a few seconds here, but if anyone else would like to share, thank you again, John.
Sure, I'll share a prayer with everybody, if that's okay.
Please do, Terry.
Praise be to thee, O Lord my God. I implore thee by thy name that have cause to surge within every drop the oceans of thy loving kindness and mercy, and to shine within every atom the luminaries of thy bountiful blessings and favors. I implore thee to adorn every soul with an ornament of thy love, and none may remain on thine earth who have not turned towards thee or failed to detach himself from all his stuff. Thou hast verily, O my God, suffered him with manifestation of thine own self to be afflicted in manner of adversity, in order that thy servants may ascend to the pinnacle of thy gracious favor, that thou hast, through thy providences and tender mercies, ordained for them in the tablets of thine irrevocable decree. Lord, that I might bear me witness in every moment of their lives. Still would have done but little in comparison with the ministry. Their hearts may be inclined towards thee, and that their faces may be turned sent, my God, thy servant, and thank which he has come love. Fortify him then, that he may cling to the most exalted word, and unloose his tongue to celebrate thy praise. Cause him to be gathered into such of thy people that are assigned to thee. Thou art he, within whose grasp is the empire of all things. There is no God but thee, the Almighty, the help and pearl, the all glorious, the unconstrained. Prayers.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you very much. Folks, unfortunately, we're out of time. Are we out of time, Jeremiah? Do you, just say what you got to say, Jeremiah. Keep going. Close out song. Okay. Well, folks, again, unfortunately we're out of time. So because the problem is, it's not a problem. The wonderful thing is there's another program that follows this, and Jeremiah has to get the Zoom all set up for it and so forth. We hope to see you all here next week. I'm just going to do a brief little thing here. When was the last time you reached out? When was the last time you reached out to somebody, someone who don't know your name, needs some love just the same? When was the last time you reached out? Reach out to someone, folks. Show some love. We hope to see you here next week. And thanks again, Sue. And thanks, Jeremiah. Take care, folks. Everybody there in Facebook land, you all take care too. We hope to see you here next week.
Nice to see you.
Take care.